Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 12th and tonight's movie is Weapons. This is the most recent movie of this year's Horror Nights, having been released this year. I knew I was going to watch it this year when I found out that Zach Cregger made another movie. Zach Cregger was the man who directed Barbarian, and I always found that very interesting because it's sort of similar to Jordan Peele. He's not known for horror, he's known for comedy. However, Jordan Peele has a very good track record with his horror movies. And from what I can tell, Weapons was received very well, just like Barbarian. The plot of Weapons seems to be about this one, I think it's kindergarten class, where every single student except for one goes missing one night. So obviously that would lead to a lot of suspicion to one, the teacher, and two, the kid who didn't go missing. What's even stranger is that things like Ring doorbell cameras show that the kids were not abducted, they left of their own free will. And also, all of them were running in the same weird and natural way. They were like sticking their arms out at 45-degree angles. Just like with Barbarian, the trailer for Weapons told me the premise and not one thing more. I am very interested in what this movie is going to be like. I'm gonna go check it out. I have the same sort of reaction to Weapons as I did to Ready or Not. This movie did everything right except it didn't quite stick the landing. I'm going to be giving Weapons a 9 out of 10, same score I gave Ready or Not, and it is also the best movie I've seen so far this month. Aside from the ending, everything else about this movie is brilliant. The way the story unfolded, the twists and turns along the way, everything was amazing. And it's also genuinely terrifying at a few points. The way that this movie was told was pretty interesting. For like the first 2/3 of it, it kept shifting between different points of view, and it wasn't like everything was happening simultaneously or everything was unrelated. Each segment sort of dovetails into the next, and each part answered one or two questions and then raised like 10 more. There isn't really a main character, it's more of like an ensemble cast, and I also did notice this. Justin Long does make a brief appearance as one of the missing kids' parents. So for anybody who enjoyed him in Barbarian, that was a nice little cameo. I also do think that Weapons is like right up there with Gonjiam Haunted Asylum for one of the most crazy movies I've ever watched. It gets so intense, it actually kind of loops around and feels a little silly by the very end of it. Also, like Barbarian, there was like good little moments of humor in this movie. For example, there was a scene where a cop was arresting a drug addict, and there was a point where he got like pricked by a needle that the drug addict had, and then he asked, "Do you have AIDS?" And he was like, "What?" He says, "Do you have AIDS?" And I was trying to think what would be the least helpful thing he could possibly say. He was like, "I don't think so," and then he literally said that, and that made me laugh. I really don't want to go into the story because this story and how it is told to you is one of the best parts about Weapons. It shows you a little, but it raises more questions. It gets you excited about something, then it moves on to something else, and that is still in the back of your mind, and then they bring it back up again later with more context. And there were also a few moments where I'll see something and then I'll remember, oh wait, that was something else. Like, that explains something I saw earlier in this movie. And the movie is also very big on show, don't tell. It doesn't really spoon feed you this information. But even despite all the praise I do have for Weapons, I didn't love the ending. It just didn't hit the way I was hoping it would. For the most part, the entire climax is done wonderfully, but like it didn't quite stick the landing. But that doesn't mean that Weapons isn't still a great movie, and that also doesn't mean I am not fully on board with Zach Cregger as a horror movie director. Definitely go watch it and then come back later to watch the spoiler section of the review, which will start now. When I first heard about this premise, my immediate reaction was to think it was either like aliens or like some Pied Piper kind of thing. Turns out it was closer to the latter idea. You learn that the kid who didn't go missing, Alex, his aunt, came to stay at the house for a while, and that the aunt is a witch who does like witchcraft and enchants people and basically possesses them. And that she was the one who summoned all those other kids to go to their house into the basement for some kind of ritual. I don't really know what she was trying to do with them. For all I know, it was keep these 17 kids captive in perpetuity because she's like leeching on their life force or something. But that is not nearly the scariest thing that the aunt can do. Her name is Gladys, and the actor who did her performance, Amy Madigan, she did an amazing job. But anyway, definitely the scariest thing that Gladys could do is turn someone into basically a killing machine, like a rabid, feral monster. No humanity left. The movie described them as weaponized, which I guess is where they got the title from. The first time you really see this is with, I think it was the principal of the elementary school, and he was like a very soft-spoken, caring guy, but then you see him absolutely in freak mode, and I'm pretty sure that this was like a prosthetic because consistently the weaponized people, their eyes bulge more than I feel like should be possible. And these weaponized people are really terrifying because there is absolutely nothing human about them. There is no thought, there is no feeling, there is no anything. It's just kill. And now I want to talk about the ending of the movie. It all ends at Alex's house. You get the father of one of the missing kids, Archer, and the teacher, Justine. They found some clues and followed the trail to that house. And they have to deal with some weaponized people while Alex is upstairs dealing with his weaponized parents. And there was a point where he locked himself in the bathroom and they were trying to break down the door, and I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be a reference to The Shining. But the thing is, the mom couldn't say, "Here's Johnny," because none of the weaponized people ever talk. They just, like, snarl and roar and slobber. Things look pretty bad until Alex saves the day by replicating one of the spells. One thing that Gladys would do to weaponize someone is, I believe that she needs, like, her own blood, a personal item of the person that you're trying to possess, and hair from the target. And you, like, wrap the hair around a stick, and then you break it, and then they freak out. You see him create a stick with hair from Gladys, and for most of the movie she wears a wig, but she does have like a little bit of hair left, and I guess it was that and not the fake hair. I didn't know who was going to be possessed to go after Gladys. I was expecting it to be like one of the 2 or 3 men that Gladys was holding hostage, but no, it was every single one of those kids. And then comes a sequence that I personally think went on for a little too long, where Gladys is running through the neighborhood and the kids are just like unstoppable demonic beings chasing after her. They break through windows, they break down walls, they will stop at nothing. You know that meme of like how many 8-year-olds do you think you could take at once? That's definitely put to the test in this movie. Eventually, they do catch her, and then they proceed to rip her limb from limb. I'm pretty sure they rip off her entire head from the jaw up. It was the most brutal death in a movie with a lot of brutal deaths, but I'm not going to say Gladys didn't earn it. But then we got the part that was kind of confusing. At this point, the people who were under the spell were Alex's parents, Archer, and all the kids. Every single one of them was weaponized when Gladys died. But for some reason, Archer is the only one who snaps out of it. Alex's parents and all the kids, they sort of remain catatonic. And I don't know why that is that way. Maybe it sounds kind of silly and like arbitrary, but considering how brutal the entire movie had been up to that point, I was kind of hoping for a bit of a happier ending than that. Because like the last line of the movie is like a joke. It was like, all the kids are returned to their families. Some of them are even starting to talk again. It was a lot like the ending of Ready or Not, where things took a really mean turn in a way I didn't think was necessary. I was seriously considering giving this movie a 10 out of 10, but I've been through this enough times to know when a movie earns a 10 out of 10, I will know it. This was an incredible horror movie, but I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I do think it's great. It is the best movie of Horror Nights so far. And Zach Cregger is following the same movie trajectory as Jordan Peele for me. The first movie had my interest, and now he has my attention with the second movie. I'm very interested to see what this guy makes in the future. Alright, thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.